everyone. Welcome to another episode of Content Supply Live. Today we're joined by Dallin, Brendan, and Kate. And today we're going to be talking about YouTube's podcast takeover and also the benefits of using TikTok as a search engine. So our first topic is YouTube's dominance in podcasting. So recently, YouTube has become one of the top destinations for podcasts, with over 1 billion users watching podcast content each month on YouTube, which is crazy because in the past, the audio podcast platforms have really been the top performing platforms for podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on why there's this huge shift of mostly like video podcasts rather than audio.
I think that in the past couple years, content that's performed really, really well on other social platforms like TikTok and Instagram are video clips of podcasts. And podcasts themselves are not really easy to find organically. I feel like they're often shared through word of mouth because there's not much information that you can get from a podcast just based off of their cover art and their name. And so I think a lot of creators have found a lot of success posting videos of their podcasts to other social platforms that are much easier to grow on. And so I think that's where a lot of the growth maybe came from was, okay, we need to film this to have people find our podcast. And as time has gone on, I think people have really enjoyed watching their podcast more than listening to it for a lot of different reasons. But I think for me personally, it's like, I hate to admit it, but it's just like even more stimulus, just so bad. But it's like so much better to like watch a podcast and like be, I guess like engrossed in it, be able to see who's talking, see their like body language and stuff. But that's my thoughts. I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on why this is happening.
Yeah, I got some thoughts on YouTube is an education first platform. I feel like the purpose of why people are there is to learn. And most of the time I would say, or just to be entertained. And the podcast does both of those most of the time. So to have it finally like rise to the top to be why the main platform over Spotify doesn't surprise me there, because Spotify's main intention isn't necessarily to be a podcasting platform. It's also to be a music platform, right? So to listen to new bands and music that you like. So I think that's where that comes from. And also like Joe Rogan's not exclusively with Spotify anymore. So that is probably why that is the case. I'll be honest, like that. I guarantee that's why. So,
well, I also feel like these platforms respond to the audience though, right? I mean, like we all do, is like when they understand the target audience of what the demand is creating. Cause, for me, I mean, I saw this recently where Netflix is going to be investing in video podcasts as well, to have on their platform because they're seeing the massive demand for it. So, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I'm with you, Kate. Like if anything, it's really saturated. And so it's not, it's so saturated. It's going to be really hard to say, hit the level of a Joe Rogan or, the list goes on of all of these podcasts, but that's where it becomes more niche specific that you go versus going super wide, you go super deep, with who you're trying to connect with. And that may be a loyal audience of hundreds of people, of dozens, or for others, thousands of millions, based on the subject material. So I would say it's going to become a worthwhile area to focus on because you don't necessarily like people are investing in the studio design aspect of it, but it's also a very cut and dry process. Like think about what, to throw out Joe Rogan, who's one of the top podcasters, there's nothing special about his set design or studio design, but it's recognizable. And I would say it's by design at this point that he's not doing extra to it, like say a Netflix show would do. But my recommendation is no matter how large or small your audience is, find a way to invest in podcasting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one of the top reasons why YouTube, why we have seen like a big shift of podcast content going to YouTube is because it's a lot easier to monetize and to make money for smaller creators on YouTube than it is on like Spotify for podcasters, or Lisbon, because you have to have so many downloads every single month in order to make any money. Whereas on YouTube, you just have to have a certain amount of following and a certain amount of watch hours. So it's a little bit easier for smaller creators to actually earn money from their podcasts on YouTube, which is beneficial as well.
And I might actually disagree with that too, because the thing with Spotify is you have merch and you have other places that you can toss in there. They don't do that on YouTube yet, where you can have like, hey, you support us, buy a t-shirt, or like,
They do in some forms though. Yeah, you can still do sponsored products in YouTube, but it's not as, I would say it's not near as friendly yet as far as like TikTok Shop, and those types of features. But I know there is that like ability to sync and connect.
Okay. I just don't see
a
that.
shoppable experience.
Got it. Yeah. I just don't see that very often on YouTube. I mainly see it on Spotify. Most places will have like their merch linked there. So it could be a piece there, but I think because they're so neck and neck.
All right. Well, that is our topic on YouTube and podcasting. Our second topic is TikTok and its emergence as a search engine. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like the Generation Z typically uses TikTok more than like other social media outlets for searching specifically. I know for me, like whenever I'm like searching for a recipe, I like that visual aspect. I like to see an influencer like actually make the meal, and then I like to search and then afterwards I'll like search it and I'll be like, okay, I want to cook like pasta and like chicken tonight, like find me a recipe. And it's really easy to do on TikTok. So I'm curious to hear like whether you use it as a search engine, what you think the benefits are there.
I use TikTok a lot as a search engine, a lot for my day-to-day work in social media marketing. And I didn't realize how bad the other platforms like Instagram and Facebook search engines were until I used the TikTok search engine. I'll give you an example from one of our clients. What I oftentimes use the TikTok search engine for is to find couples who met on Match Group, one of our clients, their dating apps. So I'll search Tinder success story, Hinge success story. And on TikTok, from what I'm reading, they prioritize what shows up on their search based off of semantics. And they actually understand the context behind keywords that you type in. Whereas Instagram, it just prioritizes hashtags and they don't understand the same, or the technology doesn't have the same understanding of the context of what you're searching. So you could search something and just, I feel like that happens to me all the time, where I'll search something that I feel is so basic, like healthy dinner recipe or something like that. And the craziest things will pop up. But, so I have really, really liked TikTok search engine, and I think it's super great. But it is just interesting just to see how different the two are. And I don't know. In my mind, I'm just so curious to learn more about why the Instagram and Facebook, or I guess just like the Meta search engine, is so bad. And I'm like, wait, you guys have like billions and billions of dollars. How have you not like invested more money into this? Because it's like, it's truly sometimes like unusable. I'm getting angry just thinking about it. If you can't.
Well, I think it's, I personally don't use those for like my search engine per se. Like I've used maybe hashtags in the past for finding like a freelancer location specific on Instagram, which I'm sure you can do definitely on TikTok. I'm not much of a personal user of TikTok, but I have seen some incredible ads that actually have targeted, like the older generations, but tapping into their children as well into the ad, showing their use of the search engine and how they can apply that into their daily life. But I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like would TikTok deliver on every single type of search, or is it more kind of education based where you're going to learn tips from creators you like? Is that kind of the idea, is that it's only going to feed you videos, or is it going to feed you like articles or other kind of like text-based results, which is where it leads me to AI. I do more searches now on AI than I do anywhere else, like ChatGPT. But do you get any kind of search engine result via TikTok like that?
I don't think so, but I also don't think that when you're using TikTok as a search engine, that's necessarily what you're looking for. Kind of what Justine was saying with like researching a recipe on TikTok, it's going to give you, and it already knows your algorithm, it's going to push videos to you that are more relevant to you. And they do such a good job with the keywords. Anything that's like written in the caption or like the on-screen text, they pull from it and they understand the context. And so I think it's just, I don't know. I don't think people necessarily go to TikTok if they want a scholarly written article, but you can use ChatGPT and have it cite their sources, or use Google and have Gemini summarize it for you.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what I figured, the search was kind of like. So, for Meta to catch up, then it could just be that maybe they're trying to find where they fit in to it, or it's not a priority for them. But it is interesting to see how search engine results has been evolving with AI. But of course, like I know TikTok's on the scene. If anything, it's competing, I think, fairly closely with Google as a top search engine now.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I don't use TikTok for that reason at all. To be honest, I usually am not Googling short form videos for things. Short form is like an entertainment, mindless thing whenever I'm caught in the rabbit hole, or I'll YouTube search something and that's where I'll find a video that explains it. So it's, I guess if you think of it like that, it makes sense. I think it really just comes down to who's using what platform, because all of them are starting to interweave their style, structure, what they do. But I don't think, I don't think it's going to edge out Google completely ever. I don't think it'll edge out OpenAI. I just think it's another option for people.
Well, and those big companies have enough to invest to move fast, right? Like I think when ChatGPT started to dominate, or even TikTok, and Google, with its billions and trillions of dollars, was like, oh man, like we've got to compete here. And so they can quickly either acquire a company. And that's why I think what Microsoft acquired ChatGPT pretty quickly. And so it's all about like how fast can you acquire and kind of compete. And so those bigger companies will definitely do that. Yahoo, on the other hand, or, these other ones, or Bing.com. My dad got into that, early days. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
That's a little before some of our times. We were like little when all the .com boom stuff happened.
Yahoo is
go.
crazy.
There's a friend of mine who worked at Yahoo in the early days, I would say, or during its heyday, in Silicon Valley. And yeah, it looks very different now. Hasn't been there for years, but yeah. So I think it's fascinating. Like it's not going to go away. I think the audience demand behind TikTok and how much they use it is huge. And so unless they've tried to do, ban it completely, you're not going to get rid of that channel. So we'll see if Meta can catch up with that.
Yeah, I would be interested to see like what the Instagram like search algorithm looks like in a year from now, to see if they like catch up to TikTok, because I know that's just a turn off to a lot of creators, just using like the Instagram algorithm in general, just because TikTok's is so much better, and their content is just so much more searchable on that platform. But what strategies do you think that brands can adapt or improve their discoverability on TikTok? Like, how do you think that brands can help improve that?
I think this is probably where thought leadership brands can really stand out, to be honest. In other platforms, sometimes you can get lost in the noise because it's the notoriety. But if you answer a very specific question, and people are using that as a search engine, and it does a better job scrubbing the content. And if you answer that specific question, to me, it's the organic piece. So if you are an education focused or a thought leader, TikTok is probably going to be a better way in the long run to answer those big questions that people are looking for. So that's what I would say. Find the questions people are asking, answer them in your video.
Yeah, I would say that. And any real like searchable question, if you can put that in any on-screen elements in your TikTok, especially captions that are based into the app or like baked into the app, I think that does a lot. I will say also, I
was just gonna get, before you jump into that, I got a question though. I guess Kate, you can probably address this, is like, cause you actively use TikTok. What is it like, people are going straight in the app and searching, obviously, but what if like from a Google standpoint, right? Like, cause I don't use TikTok really at all for my desktop. And if like I'm there in the middle of the workday and I'm searching for a question, I usually go into my Chrome search bar, and it takes me to the Google results. So like, I think adding like that thumbnail or text on screen doesn't do anything for like ranking on Google. So that's one thing I'm curious about too. See, like, I'm sure TikTok, if not already, is going to be investing heavily in how can we get ranking on these other search engines, so people find these videos when they're searching for answers to their questions. So I don't know if you ever find that happen for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually do often, and I think it's just because I work, this is my work, but I feel like I search a lot on the TikTok, like on my desktop. I actually don't have a TikTok account on my, I just use like the like TikTok search engine on my laptop. But yeah, I don't know. Once again, I feel like it just goes back to like different people will want to search in different engines. And so if your company is marketing towards people, I guess, in like the Gen Z millennial age range, and you want that content to be discoverable, I would put it on TikTok. But you're right, Dallin, I don't think it's super well integrated into other platforms yet. One thing I did want to add, I think this is super interesting. I don't know if you guys knew that TikTok did this, but they kind of help their creators out with searchability, but kind of in a weird way. I've heard creators say that they will like type in their own name or a brand's name into their search engine and something will like auto fill, but it's not at all related to their content. So for example, you could put in like Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and it would autofill divorce or something crazy like that. Or these two podcasters, and you like type in their podcast and it says like friendship breakup. But and you click on it, there's absolutely no content that has to do with it. But when people are searching those things in the TikTok algorithm, like TikTok automatically, it's just so funny. Like they autofill things that they know people are going to want to click on. And there's absolutely no like relevance behind it. But it's just like people who want the tea, I guess, as they say. But I think that's so funny that they do that. I'd be curious to learn more about that. And if it's something they like openly admit to, or if it's, I don't know, something a little more hidden on the back end.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like when I'm like scrolling mindlessly on my TikTok, I'll stumble upon a video and it'll have like a search function that has nothing to do with like the topic. Or if it does have something to do with the topic and then you click on it, like it'll just pop up with videos that like have nothing to do with it. So yeah, I would be interested to like know TikTok's strategy behind that. Like whether it's just to like get clicks or what, like why that is happening, or maybe it's just a glitch too. I don't know.
I doubt it. I think it's fake news and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is today's episode of Content Supply Live. Let us know what your thoughts are on these topics in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the Content Supply YouTube channel to listen to more videos from us. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.